What's happening, family? It's your boy Gerald Jr. back with another conversation with friends. And today I have a guest, Paul PJ Miller. We go way back to Little League Basketball, the Maryland Stallions AAU. PJ is now a husband and father and entrepreneur in the New York area. PJ was born June 7th, 1990, hometown Prince George's County, Maryland. He attended the New Jersey Institute of Technology. He was a Division I athlete, basketball player. He got his bachelor's in business. He has 7+ years of digital media. He's the owner of Wash&Fold Printing, co-founder of the 10th Clothing, and executive director at Academy 365 nonprofit. His favorite quote, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world." His Instagram handle is Mr. Miller. That's with 2 I's, MIISTER, MILLER. And at Facebook, you can find him at PJ Miller. And Clubhouse is the same as his Instagram, Mr. Miller. He's also on LinkedIn at P. Miller Jr. You can also check out his business websites, Wash&Fold Printing at www.washandfoldprinting.com. And he's also a part of a sports and entertainment group, R3V, and that's www.r3vse.com. So with no further ado, here's the conversation with PJ Miller.
What's the word?
What it do, bro?
Not much, man. Can't call it. I got a million questions, man. I'm about to have my little baby girl. So.
Oh yeah, they wild, man. She like, it's crazy. She's like way more turned up than Noah is. You know what I mean? So I don't know if it's just that second baby, and like, she just want to do everything he does too.
Got it.
Just put her in a mode where, she's very curious and stuff like that. So. I mean, it's the same thing. It's definitely a different beast, though. Having 2 versus 1, it's a whole different.
I know. My wife keep talking about that.
Yeah. So it's the same thing, though. Like, you can't really be prepared, just like for the first one. I mean, you really can't be prepared. It's like whatever happens, and you just gotta kind of roll with it. Feel like you've been prepared and do what you could do. Like girls in particular, like the whole emotional thing, like that's a whole different beast, but I just learned that with my wife too, though, you know what I mean? So it's like that same kind of, I think it's just deeper because it's your daughter now. So it's like.
Exactly.
Yeah. You really start to think about the actual, like you as a man, like the things that we've been taught and conditioned, right? Like we've been so conditioned to be a certain way, but then obviously, yeah, you have a daughter and then you see what's going on in the world and then being a leader, right? I mean, you're a leader, you're an executive, all these different things. Yeah. And so you're like, yo, my daughter is going to one day be an adult, be out in this world.
Exactly.
And if I'm not doing stuff right now that's going to help advance her, you know what I mean? So it's changed like my whole like mentality on the things that I do speak on. But I mean, it's been all great. She's the star. It's like she the princess. She come over, take over everything. So you know how you get married, and then it's like, all right, it's your wife, and then you had a first kid. You really the foundation now on the totem pole. But nah, they love you though. Like, look, she follow me everywhere I go. It's that unconditional love for real. Like you can just tell, like. The son, he'll be all over, but she just literally clings to everything that I do. And so that's a different feeling too. So it's dope.
Yeah, that's fire.
Dope. But yeah, appreciate you reaching out, bro. I've been just trying to get different stories, man, of people in my circle, during this time of the pandemic and obviously COVID, but as a way to kind of keep people connected, keep people uplifted, and sharing stories, man. That's one thing I feel like. Obviously my wife a news anchor, and so you see things, and then being a ball player, sports isn't big without the media.
Exactly.
But then you don't really hear any other stories, right? So you might hear LeBron's story, you might hear some of these bigger guys' stories, but there's thousands of guys who have different stories that typically don't make, you know, these bigger platforms. And so for me, I was like, man, I got to start getting some stories out there. I know some great guys, some great people, you know, just in my immediate circle. And so that was my kind of idea. It was very informal, just conversations, man. Just, you know, everybody's on the grind. Everybody's growing, developing, you know, starting families, starting businesses. But showing us interacting and doing these things in real time, I think is important and very valuable, because we didn't have it. You know what I mean? Like we had athletes to look up to, but we didn't necessarily have guys that was like, yo, I'm an entrepreneur. I do X, Y, and Z. I can go into corporate America and get contracts. I can do all these different things where, you know, we've been kind of pushed in one linear direction, go get your college, get a degree, and do all these other things. And then now you get out into the world, and the world is not so cut and dry. You know what I mean? Like you really got to have skills, you really got to build. So that was kind of my idea behind it, getting the stories out there. And I'm just putting it up on social. So I'll put it up on my YouTube and then rip the audio and put it up on the podcast and stuff like that. But with no further ado, man, I would just go ahead. I got it recording.
Okay,
so I got the first little bit. But I got my guy PJ Miller. We go way back to youth AAU basketball.
I know, right?
What team was that? What team? Says the Stallions?
Yeah, Stallions. I played for Slam and Jam. I mean, you know, we definitely were some of that first, you know, kind of talent. I feel like that kind of burst in the DMV area. You know, at a young age, it was very competitive. So, yeah,
man, that time was very crazy. And I had just literally moved to PG. So like that was new to me.
Okay.
You know, I was from Rochester, New York, upstate New York.
Okay.
And so my dad and my stepmom, they moved there after, you know, they graduated they went to HBCU, so Hampton and Norfolk. And so then like I stayed with my grandmother while they was in school, and then they graduated. Grandmother passed away, and then a couple of years later, about 6, that's when we moved up to PG. And so I think, it'd have been around like 7, 8, 9, 10 when we was playing on the Stallions, somewhere around there. But I mean, that was my first introduction into PG County and that hoop life.
Exactly.
And I think that set the tone. So, you know, just let the people know what that PG County AAU basketball life, because I think that's huge, especially now that you're being an entrepreneur. That ultimate competitiveness, and drive and excellence, and being like, guys was in the gym early, you know, when we was kids. It wasn't when we get to college, like, no, dudes was doing that, you know, little league. So tell the people about, you know, what that taught you and how that's helping you now.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you know, growing up in the PG area, you had a lot of things that, you know, you could, you know, put your energy in when it came to basketball, specifically for myself. So like I kind of started with like the club levels. So, you know, in PG County, we had like club teams back then where you kind of got your first, you know, sense of like recreation. So, you know, that's a competitive level of like, you know, the kids in your neighborhood, you know, that you go to school with. It's like, you know, you go to basically the next town over and you play those kids. But then, you know, when you were the best in your club team, you got introduced to this thing called, you know, youth AAU. So now, you know, you think you're, you know, a hot shot, and now you step in the gym with, you know, kids your age, but they're, you know, 5 to 8 inches taller than you, and you think you're regular size, right? So it kind of makes you really humble yourself in the sense of like, hey, I'm around really good, not only people, but talent at such a, you know, we're talking about 10, 11, you know, 12 years old, you know, kids already in a regiment of waking up early, having schoolwork, and still, you know, working out and doing those things that kind of you see in the collegiate level. But, you know, it's a kid that's, like I said, 10 years old. You know, they're still watching cartoons you know, I was watching cartoons on a Saturday. And then after I'm finished cartoons, I got to go walk down the street and I'm taking, 500 shots. Right. So I just feel like, growing up in the DMV, it gave you that edge that I think helped me in my current career and just, navigating through a lot of different avenues, just having kind of that chip on your shoulder. I feel like to want to go to other areas and other places and kind of show, what you're about. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's great because even now that I've been out of the DC area, you just see that AAU ball and recreational ball really isn't as readily available as it was to us, or such a big thing. And it's just like now coming into some of these communities. And so, but I think that's huge because when I look at a lot of the guys from even our youth AAU and sports, and I see most of us, whether it's on social media, whether I talk to a guy, most of us our trajectory is pretty well, whether we went on to play high school ball, and we'll talk about that later, how competitive high school ball is, but the Division I level, but then on to entrepreneurship and to just different things outside of the sport. Yeah. So what would be some, what was your growing up like? I know your family, but what was that like? And what kind of led you to, did you have entrepreneurs in your family already? What kind of drove you to being an entrepreneur from like childhood, or what was that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't even think that light clicked on until I was probably in high school. I feel like growing up, I came from like a basketball sports family. My mom and my dad loved sports. My dad played sports. My dad's side of the family, my uncle, played sports. So it was kind of like basketball was already ingrained in me. My dad used to play in his job.
Pops is tall too.
Yeah. So he used to play down in DC. Like every I don't remember, but basically my dad worked. It was crazy. My dad worked nights. So during the day, he was home, but obviously I was in school. So growing up, he was there a little bit, but then he would work nights, and then some days I would get to go to his games before he would work. So he would literally have a pickup game. I mean, not a pickup game, but a league game. I would go see him play, and then he would basically change his clothes and basically go to work. So seeing that at such a young age, it was just like, I didn't realize how much that impacted me till obviously now looking back at it. But just seeing someone that, you look at as a role model. I mean, my dad's like my best friend. So seeing him do some of the things that he did, it kind of showed me like, okay, I can do this. When you feel like, something can't happen, he always, and my mom was really always there as that catalyst of like, and they always told me this, it was like, nobody owes you anything, anything in this world you have to go out and get. And growing up like that, that's a tough household to grow up in.
For sure.
It's a lot of, tough love. And I think nowadays, a lot of kids, kind of at that age, obviously immature, but a lot of that parenting, I feel like can get lost with, social media and a lot of the different avenues that youth have today. But it was just like back then, it was like, to play basketball or play sports, you had to get your grades. And sometimes it was, you just needed to get your grades because you're living in this house, so it was really a structural thing for me. I feel like that my parents gave me at a young age that helped me definitely get to the place that I am, right now. And then, just growing up I'm from Fort Washington, Maryland. So basically now, Fort Washington, Maryland, that area is a hot spot. You got the harbor down there, MGM. But like I said, growing up, that wasn't there. So, we had to go to DC or go to Virginia or, other parts of Maryland to really, kind of get that diversity. I would just say in our area in PG County is predominantly Black, obviously. So for people like me and yourself, we actually saw African-American males and women at the height. Right. So, like I used to go to Kaiser. So when I walked into Kaiser, all of the people that were, you know, doctors or even receptionists, they just looked like me.
Right.
So I always had that sense of like, I could literally do anything, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, that was a big key. And I know for you as well, it's just like seeing that. And in today's age, a lot of kids really just need to see it longer than if they have like, you know, a little program that they do. You know, we saw this from growing up to, you know, where we at today. So I think, you know, we were definitely blessed in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, that was huge. That was for me, because it's like, you know, you don't really get that anywhere else. I mean, living in PG County, obviously DMV, seeing that much success on so many levels, you know, whether it's a doctor or a lawyer, you know, a business owner, a pro athlete, you know, all these people are right there, administrators, nurses, doctors, your friends' parents, you know, are these people. And so, I mean, I think that PG County experience as a young Black boy, you know, I would want to give that to any young Black man, any young Black boy in this country, because, you know, obviously that's what America prides itself on, is being able to, you know, have a lifestyle where you have a community, but that community is doing well, it's thriving. But we know in a lot of our communities outside of, you know, our suburban areas, you know, people are hurting. You know, most African Americans and Black people and brown people are hurting in this country. And they're not living in the PG counties of the world. And so you get outside of that and you're like, wow, PG County really is a different world of its own. And so how has that, you know, because you play, I know I see the jersey in the background. Let's talk about high school ball. And then how did that trajectory go into your college playing days? And then after college, what happened?
Yeah. So, I mean, growing up, it was different, right? Especially for me. I mean, my story is different. Like I said, I grew up, I played in the AAU circuit. And even through that time leading up to, you know, when I played in high school, I actually wasn't the size that I am today. I was short. So a lot of the skill sets that I had to learn was more so as a small guard. And then, you know, I I basically did everything kind of, you know, storybook to, you know, how things were going in that era, right? When we were growing up, you know, WCAC was the thing. You know, you basically played AAU ball. Then you got to middle school, which we didn't have a middle school team, but a lot of my friends at that time, they played middle school ball. So, you know, you were able to then take that, and everybody was, you know, some people went public, but the elite, I would say, it was pushed in our area was WCAC. So I went to O'Connell. I played there 2 years, played on the freshman and the JV team. A lot of friends that I still have today, I mean, came from that school, you know, I mean, a lot of good players. And for me, it was the timing and where I was at a player. Talent-wise, I was there, but my body just didn't catch up. And I would walk down the halls, and my dad, it was just like I would go home, and it was to the point where, you know, you get discouraged because it's like I'm looking at my father, I'm looking at my uncles, and every time I talk to them, they're like, "Hey, you're gonna grow, you're gonna get a growth spurt, but what you can do is control what you can control." So I just stayed in the gym, and then there was a turning point. I feel like everybody that has seen some type of success had a turning point in, you know, their life. And for me, it was the decision to leave O'Connell. You know, that decision came from basically me saying, "Hey, I didn't want to be someone who was, you know, kind of in the back seat of a lot of things that I had no control over." And I felt like at that point, it was my time to really, you know, try to get and take my, you know, kind of career in my own hands. And then that led me to PCA. which was Progressive Christian. And as you know, that year it was crazy. I mean, we was in the Slam magazine.
Yeah.
You know, that like we at that summer, it was just like everybody was like, "Yo, who's like who like how did you get to PCA? Like who is all these guys? Like especially us being in Slam magazine." And I feel like that was my turning point of like seeing kind of like outside of the DMV. Like because playing JV and freshman is kind of like you're not on the varsity team, so you're not going to those invitationals, you're not going to those tournaments, seeing other people. And that year, I actually played on the prep team. So I didn't even the later year that I was at PCA, I played on the prep team, and we won like the national prep. I think it was like the Christian tournament. Right. So after that, it was like, all right, I got some success. You know, things at PCA was just more so on a school level. They were kind of breaking up. So, so then one of my childhood friends, Brian Freeman, he was at this school, Potomac School. So that was the MAC.
I remember that.
So I didn't really know too much about the MAC because, like I said, if you didn't play for the WCAC or you know certain public schools, it was like, you know, you didn't really have certain conversations about that. So I went to the school. It was take care of your thing. So it was like a predominantly you know, kind of diverse school, like a college preparatory, you know, almost like, you know, coming from the DMV area, it's like you're seeing a lot of stuff that you're just not used to seeing. You know, people driving certain cars that you see on TV. You know what I'm saying? It was a different atmosphere for me. But on the basketball level, I was at the kind of height of, you know, my I would say amateur career when it came to, you know, being in high school. And that year at the Potomac School, I actually had to reclass. And the biggest reason why, and I was that whole kind of year leading up to that, I was telling my parents, like, no, I'm graduating with my friends. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, I got a 3.5 GPA. Like, I have no reason to do this. But then you get in the room with other kids that were at that school, and they were just so advanced. It had nothing to do with you know, grades at that point. It was just the information that they was given at that age. We weren't getting in the other schools that I was a part of. So you know, I made that decision, and then it was just I don't know, man. It was like the light clicked on. I mean, we won a state championship that year. You know, I was like all everything. So it was kind of like, and everybody knew me growing up. You know, my real name's Paul Miller, but my basketball name, my dad always called me PJ. So once I got to high school, everybody called me PJ. And it was just like, it was everything, man. It was like, you know, Washington Post, you're getting interviews, you know, people coming to your games, they doing highlight videos of you. You know, obviously this is way before, you know, Bleacher Report and all this. You know, it was like DC sports fans. So, you know, you got a video on DC sports fans, you know, you felt like, you know, you was doing something, you know, so yeah, exactly.
Way before the social media days.
Yeah, so that's really how that trajectory went. And it was crazy because and I don't really talk about that story as much, but leaving O'Connell, you know, coaches basically though. You said what? Sorry.
I said, I think that's big though, and very commendable, because obviously, you know, us being in the WCAC and it being such a, you know, hotbed league, and this is what everybody, you know, I went through the same process. We all went through the same process, but having to make those tough choices and decisions for what's best for PJ, what's best for you, you know, I think really is a critical, you know, like you say, that pivot, you know, to making that decision, like, yo, I'm gonna make this move. So I think that's very commendable on your behalf, and I think that's a very valid part of your story.
Exactly.
You know, that's a huge part, because O'Connell is a big school. I mean, who's that, Coach Wooten? at your
Coach
time?
Wooten. Yeah. Coach Wooten's still there. I mean, and he's a great coach. I mean, you know, he you know, a lot of those coaches, like I said, are great coaches. I mean, the talent that came out of there. But to your point, it was just making that decision. And when we were actually about to win the state championship, I was on the free throw line shooting free throws to win the game, and Coach Wooten and O'Connell was playing after us. And he literally, it was like a moment where, you know, he saw, obviously he knew who I was at that point, and it was just like, it was like that, like icing on the cake. You know, it was like, yo, wow, you know, a few years, full circle. And I feel like people talk about that full circle thing, but they don't really put into consideration that to get fully around, you can't stop the grind, and you can't. It's just, that was my first chance and time seeing that it was no way of kind of getting through things with shortcuts. And that's really what it was, because when I was at Progressive, one of my coaches today that I literally call like one of my brothers, Coach Derek Harvey, he introduced me to the Kobe workout. So that was basically where you would wake up early in the morning and you would lift weights, you would like do some conditioning, and then you would do basketball workouts for a whole month. I think it was like a whole 3 months. And my dad, like I said, he was working nights, but then he started working in the morning. So I would have to wake up my father would leave the house he would have to be out at 4. So he would wake me up at like 3:30. I would be rumbling around trying to put my clothes on. And at PCA, we had a like an outhouse, because like I said, a lot of the guys were on the prep team. So I would go there, sleep until like 4:35. He would wake me up. We would basically go right to the school, go to the gym, and we would do conditioning, lifting, and we would work out. And the guy that I was working out with was this kid, Ernest Watson, and Ernest was 6'8". Yeah. So it was like playing against someone every day that you had to, one, push him. I'm a small, like at that point I was like maybe 6'1", almost. Yeah, I was probably like 6'1". But like I said, someone that's legit 6'8", I have to go in every day for the next 3 months and push that person. And I know he's gonna push me just off the strength of, you know, he's bigger than me, stronger than me, older than me. So it was just kind of like those, you know, kind of David and Goliath moments of like, you gotta, you know, it's like people say like, yeah, you touch the fire and you know it's hot, but sometimes you gotta go up to it, you know, and really see how hot it is, and make sure that, you know, you can stand there and weather that storm. So yeah, that's a real, you know, kind of point of me. And I didn't really say about NJIT as much, but the decision there was, you know, obviously still playing AAU, and kind of my junior summer going into my senior year, I twisted my ankle, and I probably had about like 3 or 4 offers, and that was my first taste of like how college recruiting is. And a lot of players see that, and sometimes they get very discouraged, because if you put all your eggs in one basket, it's easily for that coach to just be like, hey, you know, it's just, we're going to go with this egg, you know, thank you for being a part of this basket, but we just think that, you know, egg number 1 is where we're going to go with. And I hear a lot of stories with that. I hear a lot of guys that go to the big school and then they ride the bench. And then after a year, they drop out anyway because they're not getting the grades, because they don't have they don't have the enthusiasm even to stay. I mean, that first workout as a collegiate athlete, I tell certain people the stories. It was so bad. We were doing a basketball workout where you basically caught the ball at the free throw line, you swept through, and you just went to the basket. And then you went to the 3-point line, and then you had to go to half court and do the same thing. And it was certain drills. I didn't even get to the 3-point line. My coach was walking with me to the basket, like literally yelling at me in my ear, because one, I'm not prepared, I'm not conditioned, because I got to get all those what I think I am, high school accolades out my head, and understanding that this is a whole nother level. You know, it's not a high school and then it's like college. It's high school and college is 10.
You playing with grown men.
Exactly. So that really was it. And my reasoning for picking NJIT, because the Washington Post, they wrote an article. It was basically like PJ Miller commits to NJIT ... And the whole article was just like, basically, what is he doing? You know, we've been following him. He's a great guard. He could easily play at this school. And the deciding factor was the same deciding factor that it was when I had the opportunity to leave O'Connell. It was the fact that I see too many of my friends going to these schools because someone else told them what to do or what they saw, and then they're just miserable. I'll rather be miserable in a situation where I know cold-heartedly I put all of my effort and energy in making that decision, and I'll, you know, basically roll the dice and see where it goes. And NJIT, the year before I got there, they won one game. We won a state, we won a state championship, and we was on the bus, and my teammates were literally on ESPN looking at the scores. And I think NJIT at that point was like getting blown out by like 50 points. And they were like, yo, this where you going to school at? So it was like, yeah, it's like, bro, you wilding. So it was like, when that happened, it was like, okay, now it's time to level set. And when I went there with a few other players that had the same similar story, but we were, our backcourt, we were 6'2", 6'3", that's league guards, that's good size guards. So we just basically, that was my roommate, my brother, Chris Flores. He actually, was great at NJIT. He has a lot of records, and he actually like played overseas and had trials with the Nets. So it was like me and him. It was like, kind of Starsky and Hutch. It was like we sat down and we were like, "Yo, we're gonna change this program." I remember walking through like the dorm rooms, and we would literally keep our door open. So obviously, like a lot of times they keep the athletes together. So we would have this rule where, we would have music playing 24/7. Like obviously, if you had to study, we would turn it off or whatever. But people would walk past, and one girl was like, "You guys are acting like, you're gonna do something or change the program." And I was like, "I guarantee you, we're gonna change the program." Because the amount of work that people didn't see that was going in every day, like I could understand if we weren't putting the work in, but we were putting in the work that was going to at least allow us to compete, where NJIT wasn't even on that playing field or even being competitive. So I say that to say, 4 years, I basically started at point guard, and then my last year we won a conference championship. So it's like, it's the small wins that turn into that success, right? And like I said, my story is very different than a lot of people, but at the end,
I think it's very similar too, though. But not to cut you off, but I think your story is one of those stories that most kids need to hear.
Exactly.
Because a lot of these kids are really coming out thinking they going high major D1 or D1. And even then, you go D1, it's still going to be tough, whether you go a major, mid, or low D1. But then guys, like you say, you get there and you don't realize that, these dudes is grown men. You might not play until your junior, senior year. Dudes get hurt, whatever. But also school, right? If you can't sustain school, like if you get there and you get hurt your freshman year, now you got to go to school. But we're not focusing on that because most of us aren't coming from, highly educated backgrounds, I would say. So school is tough, right? If you're not used to structure, if you're not used to the system of what's going on. Exactly. But I think a lot of guys, and that's why I really want to have more people like yourself on, because we get so caught up in the fantasy of D1 ball. You know what I mean? Like, it's a fantasy. It's a lottery pick. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't think that. You could put in a lot of hard work and still not make it because it's a numbers game, you know. And so, you know, that's kind of what, because now we live in a day and age where we're not even getting, you know, guys who played, you got to share your story back. So kids are able to make better decisions for themselves, you know, not, oh, you know, you see a guy transferring 2, 3, 4 times because he chose the wrong school multiple times. And it's like, do your homework, be different.
Exactly.
You know, I chose OU, similar route. I was like, yo, I wanted to go to a mid-major. All I wanted was the scholarly. You know?
Exactly. I wanted the free education, man. Both of my parents didn't go to college, so I didn't have that ability to you know, try to be feeling myself in that regard, right? My parents already told me it was kind of like, if you don't have a plan B, you always lean on your plan A. And I always, like, I believed in that. I believe in that cold-heartedly, that every person, you know, if you have a goal, if you have a dream or something that you're trying to accomplish, yes, there might be other steps that get you to that dream fully, but you can't ever stop believing. And I think that's the biggest thing is, for me, I just never give up on my dream. You know, at that time, it was a dream to play collegiate ball or different levels. It's kind of like, maybe turn your dreams into smaller dreams, or you know, because those dreams, like I said, start to turn into accomplishments. If you think about it, right? If my dream is to play in the NBA, okay, how do I chop that dream up, right? And then how do I make that accomplishments that I hit? And I tell myself, I'm at least getting closer to my dream. And then if I hit a roadblock and I don't accomplish something, I look back and I say, dang, look at all of the stuff I accomplished. And based off of where I'm at right now, what is the next chapter? Is it continuing that dream? Or is it, I've gotten so, I've grown so much and I learned so much that I actually could do something else. And I can start that same track all over again of a dream and basically start to make it small accomplishments. So,
yeah. And so in school, what'd you study? What'd you get your degree in?
So I got my degree. I got a business degree, bachelor's of science in like business, and then I got it in like marketing. But going to NJIT, it was technical business. So it was like technical writing, technical marketing. So that really what helped me get into like the corporate industry that I'm currently in, where I'm basically a analyst for a company called Yieldmo, and that's where I'm currently at. But I worked at Panasonic. You know, everybody would hit me trying to get TVs back in the day, and microwaves. It was funny. And then I transitioned there and went to Pandora, you know, media. So basically it was Pandora's music, the app. It was their media division. And there, that was like, for me, that was another milestone, because a big reason for going to NJIT was I wanted to work in New York and I wanted to be in New York. So Panasonic, I was still in the New Jersey area, and then boom, I got that job offer, and I was on the train, you know, going over that water, and it just, after that, it was like, man, it was a point of like, did I make it fully, or is there still other things out there to get? Because New York was a big thing for me. I mean, I'm big on like fashion, a lot of stuff, I mean, that I'm doing now. So New York gave me the opportunity.
The city.
Yeah, so that's really, you know, kind of it. I got into the media space, and then one of my teammates in college, he actually plays a small forward shooting guard, and it was funny because he's, you know, brown Indian guy, and he always got so much slack playing with us because he was like this, like D3, like beast. I'm talking about like dropping like 40, 50. So our coach, buckets. He could really shoot. So our coach basically gave him he wanted to come and walk on, because at that time we needed a really knockdown shooter, right?
Okay.
So, you know, obviously coming from that, you hyped. I'm like, yo, I'm going D1. All I got to do is sit in the corner or come off a screen and hit the threes like I've been doing. So, you know, and we took a likeness to each other because he was coming from that background, the business background. I didn't have none of that, right?
Right.
I had the courses that I was basically taking just so I can get on the court. You know, and keep my GPA, you know, high like I wanted it. But he really, and I take his hat off to him and his family. I tell him all the time, like they were a pivotal point because you can't get to where you want to without important people, you know, like pillars to kind of put in the state, you know, in the ground that say, yes, I'm here, I'm gonna help you, and I see what you're doing and I see something in you, right? That can come from somebody that's younger than you, someone that's older than you, up here. It doesn't matter, but you have people that come, you know, for those seasons. And he was definitely the person that I would say put the entrepreneur battery in my back. Definitely.
Okay. That's dope. Yeah, because I mean, I recently seen you the last few years, and I mean, the entrepreneurial hat has been turned all the way up. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, I'm similar the same way. You know what I mean? I didn't really grow up in an entrepreneurial family. You know, my parents are the first or second to graduate in their families, and then to work corporate and for the government in DC.
Exactly.
You know, so for the first time you're seeing some of this stuff. But then, you know, obviously a lot of my friends' parents were entrepreneurs, and you're like, yo, how y'all going on vacation?
Exactly.
You know, every few months, you know what I mean? Like, how y'all living this life? And so that's when I really started to study more and more entrepreneurship. And then I started seeing like my friends in college whose parents were entrepreneurs, and you got white money who, you know, their granddad, their great granddad was a businessman. But just to see like, yo, we really don't own anything.
Exactly.
You know And you know, when it comes to wealth and generating wealth, you know, if you don't own anything, you know, we just working and spending our money and creating wealth for everybody else. And so I think that's huge, and that's why the conversation is also important. Because, you know, as entrepreneurs, you know, a lot of people only see like the success, right? Or they see the glorified, you know, the marketing aspect of it, but nobody talks about like being in the trenches or the startup phase, right? Like, what does it take to start something up from the ground floor, and then get it out there? So going into that, like, how's it been, you know, being a young Black entrepreneur, you know, obviously working, family, how are you balancing all of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a balancing act, but you know, I really appreciate and take my hat off to my wife because I feel like until I really sat down and we, you know, got married and stuff like that, because even before that, you know, she was huge. You know, she was kind of that support system because, like I said, my parents are in Maryland, I'm in Jersey. And you know, being with her, she had a very strong, and they have her still do, her family has a very strong family structure. So that support of her family allowed me to go out and do things while she could lean on her family for that. You know, if I'm doing something, she can go over there and hang out, or they will come over, you know, to our apartment at the time. So, you know, for me, it was kind of like, yeah, my son got a little cold, so I tried to put him to sleep before ours because he would have been jumping up and down.
Yeah, she was napping. She caught me, right? She was napping right before this. And then my wife came home, and so she taking a bath right now. I told her to take her bath. So once she come down, I'll let her take her.
Yeah, but yeah, so basically saying that to say it was kind of like right now it's, you know, similar to what we were talking about before. It's like, you know, you got your family, you know, you got your priorities. So for me, it was just, you know, kind of getting the right things in place to allow me to continue to grow, you know, what I needed to do. And at first, it was to really apply myself and figure out where I want to be in kind of the corporate space. because obviously if you want to do anything on the side or you want to be an entrepreneur, you still need that steady income, right? You need income coming in for you to be able to get a lot of the things that you need. So after getting to that point, and like I said, going back to my friend Arjun, we basically started a entertainment group that we were throwing like private parties in New York. So that kind of was the first start for me. And then after that, just venturing out in, you know, many different avenues. And today, really just being laser focused on, you know, kind of the goals of what I really want to accomplish as an entrepreneur. And the biggest thing was, I think I posted this on my social media recently, looking at the businesses that I own and some that I'm associated with in a nonprofit. They're all geared towards kind of Black empowerment, right? And that what we talked about before of like the Black ownership. So it was really taking all of the hiccups, because I had a lot of hiccups before even getting to this point, and there's still hiccups. But I really made it laser focused that I want to associate myself with different businesses or organizations that are pushing us forward. We live in an age now where I have a lot of diverse friends. I have a lot of diverse family, and I'm going to treat everybody with the same respect and help anybody that needs help. But I feel a really, really, really strong duty to help our people. And that's where my entrepreneur track has shifted, because at a younger age, it was looking at it more of like, okay, this business, you know, going here, meeting these people, you know, networking almost. And now it's just, you know, sitting 10 toes down on a few things that I really feel strongly about and putting my energy into that and my family. And I feel like now having that that sustainability has allowed for the businesses that I've started and that I'm associating myself with grow. So, you know, that's really it. It's kind of like, it's crazy to think, but the family aspect actually keeps things afloat and keeps things in a structural way, because like I said, we got kids, so we're on a schedule, you know. So it almost is like, I mean, for me, like, you know, recently, probably the last like year, you know, my printing company has been doing very well. And I'm literally, you know, I had to set up a small printing shop in my garage, and then I moved that to my basement. And I literally, at some points, print on the hours that my son takes his naps. You know,
that hustle though.
Exactly. So it's put me into a situation where it's kind of like, you can do it. You can make time. And then, like I said, I have my basically better half, my wife, that level sets me when I kind of get a little bit to the left. She's like, all right, let's come back to the middle and maybe just take a break, and let's just watch TV, or let's just, you know, kind of just digress. And talk
get out of that work mode.
Exactly. I mean, because it can. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you can get so engulfed in what you're doing, because you're always kind of thinking about the now, but then thinking about, you know, the latter portion, like, you know, where you're trying to go. So, you know, these last few years has really just been laser focused on what I'm really trying to accomplish. And I feel like every business and nonprofit that I'm associated with at this point is laser focused on, like I said, that goal of just empowerment of, you know, our people. Because I've been in so many rooms where I'm the only one, and I just feel an obligation to try my hardest to, if I can get one person in, I'm at least doing something. You know, and I have a son, and that's the biggest thing, you know, legacy. I mean, we have an opportunity to do something important, because in this day and age, social media and how much we have power.
Right.
You know, it's a lot of things that you know can be moved. So you know, that's
sure.
kind of you know kind of the path that I'm on right now, and just trying to continue to grow, you know, those different avenues, because they're, you know, little trees or branches right now, and it's kind of like just, you know, consistently watering them, getting
Right.
you know, the sun so they can grow. So you know, that's it.
No, for sure. I think that's huge. And I think, you know, the family aspect and obviously, you know, having your wife balance you, I think I've learned that. And my wife does the same for me when I get too crazy. I'm a big thinker, big visionary. She's like, oh, let's bring it down a little bit, you know. But also we get, I think, you know, as athletes, we're so used to, hey, I go work out, I go shoot, I could have a game, right? And I see the results. You see the fruits of that labor like instantaneously. And then you see, you know, like you say, 4 or 5 years, you go and now you win the conference championship. So you done seen your work pay off. Where in entrepreneurship, I feel like, you know, it's a little bit slower, but also, you know, we were playing ball early on. We don't really account for that though in our, like, yo, you started when you was 7, 8, 9, 10. Then you got to the D1 level. That was 10, 15 years. You know what I mean? So most entrepreneurs don't really take off 10, 15, maybe 10 years, you know? And so those, you know, planting those seeds,
Exactly.
you know, and like you said, building that network too, you know, to have the contacts to be able, I mean, you got a printing company. What helps a printing company is if you get a company that got 40,000 employees and they need a, you know, they need a big order, you know, so that's gonna allow you to grow. But the only way you get that contact is, you know, continuously doing good business, continuously putting yourself out there and growing. So now I really appreciate those gems because, you know, as young Black people too, I feel like, you know, tell us your businesses too, because obviously I think you're doing you obviously had a brand, but having a printing business, I think is a smart idea. How'd you get into that? And tell us about your other companies that you're working with.
Yeah, so basically the main thing that I've been working on is my clothing line, the 10th Clothing. And I started that about 2.5 years ago. And that's really more so I needed a marketing strategy to start to engulf myself in the community, really, because that was the goal, and that still is the goal, that has been the goal. So basically I have the clothing line, and we were able to grow because of the clothes and the apparel that we were making. We were now able to do a lot of the things in the community. So I basically called that group the Men of the 10th. And what those gentlemen are is it's basically an open space of Black men that are able to go back into their community and just do acts of service. I mean, if it's you know, in January we go to a homeless shelter and we post up outside and just give everybody a whole care package. You know, if it's going to a school and just being there reading to the kids, you know, seeing and you said it's what we were able to get in PG County, just in small doses, just trying to give that to somebody else that maybe, you know, looks like you, but isn't in your situation. You don't know anything about them, their parents or anything, but you do know that that kid, if you connect with them just a little bit, maybe they have the trajectory that you had the opportunity to fulfill, you know, just by those acts of service. So in doing that, I then, you know, really being in the community, you know, we did a lot of different things in the New Jersey area. If it came to, you know, coat drives, during COVID, you know, my wife would cook and I would take food to the doctors in the area, at some of the hospitals. And you just really just see the happiness in people. You know, that's the biggest thing for me. I mean, I think that I talk about this with some of my friends. It's a gift and a curse, because I can be so giving, but then not realize when things are being taken, you know. And sometimes when you're moving so fast, you know, I've been blessed to just not even think about it, so it doesn't even kind of have an opportunity to linger, you know, in my mind, you know, when those negative things happen. So by doing those acts of service, I got connected with a good friend, RB Alberna, and in the New Jersey area, the Essex County, he has a basically group called theAcademy 365, where I basically sit on the executive kind of level there, more so overseeing the growth of the nonprofit because of the certain things that I was doing in the community. And we basically meet with young Black males from the ages of 13 to 18, so basically middle school, high school. And we basically are building out a whole curriculum for Black males, you know, around financial literacy, around different things like emotional intelligence, like just you know, kind of really figuring out how to put something together that still, and my biggest thing is that still allows a kid to be a kid, right? Because a lot of the issues that we have today is people that don't look like us don't see our youth as youth.
Right. Yeah.
You know, a 14-year-old kid can walk down the street, but because he's, you know, 6'2", he can be basically identified as someone that's 20, 30 years old. So basically, really, that program, and I'm so blessed to be a part of it, is just the building of our Black men, but also helping them and gearing them in the right situation to just be there to answer the questions. You know, if one of our young men has a question, we have enough there to assert ourselves. And the last, it's two other things that I'm a part of currently, is like we were talking about the printing company, and really with
what's the name of the printing company?
The printing company is called Wash&Fold Printing.
Okay.
The name basically, me and another kind of peer were kind of bouncing off the idea, and really, like I said, staying true to home, right? In a lot of urban areas, you have Wash&Folds. You know, you have a lot of laundromats. You have a lot of places where some people don't have the opportunity to even wash their own clothes. You know, they don't have a washer and dryer. So it was kind of taking that concept of just a community aspect of a place where people go, you know, to do, you know, their laundry, but it's still a place of fellowship. So basically that idea of saying that as a printing company, we're just that as available to the community, right? You can come to us if you're a startup brand. You can come to us if you're a government contract or a government affiliated and you have a government contract. We can take care of those orders as well. But our key is we help a lot of small businesses understand what goes into printing, right? You don't just come to Wash&Fold and just get an invoice, or, you know, just basically get an estimate. You actually get, you know, a full service. We have a design team, because all of those things that I built with the clothing line, I now give to anybody that wants to print it, because that's basically the business that that just came out of the clothing. You know, it was kind of like, I'm already making, you know, kind of dope apparel, and I know the ins and outs. I can just now make it myself. And now by doing that, I can open it up to people, because it's just bad. Sometimes when I get messages, I just feel like, hey, I have to help this person out. You know, countless, I hear people that, you know, purchase stuff overseas and they get it and it's not what they want. They spent a lot of money. It took 3 months or this, that, and the third, and just don't understand the industry. So that's the printing company. And then the last venture that's recent for me, and it seems like on paper it's a lot, right? And we talked about that balancing act. But what I do is I make sure that I place myself in a way where I'm there, and that pocket of what that company or whoever I'm associated needs, I give 100%, right? So a lot of the businesses and the nonprofits, I'm a part of those entities, but kind of like the printing company is the main, hub outside of, like I said, because I have a regular job and I have a family. So so it's kind of like with the other businesses, and I'm on the executive board of a Black-owned sports agency that recently launched. We recently launched, and the goal there is similar to, because I believe I reached out to you a little bit, but it's back to that, everybody didn't get the PG experience. Everybody didn't get the club team. Everybody didn't get that. And in the DMV area, a lot of the guys that you see that play on Sunday and Saturday, they were born and bred in that. Obviously in certain states like Texas and stuff like that, you got like the little tykes and things you see on Netflix. But with the sports agency, I really just came in as, kind of an advisor of kind of different aspects of business that I knew. And the agent, Jeff, and the VP, Rakeem, I grew up with them. We basically played, club ball together. We all played at Allentown. Allentown was a club team that we were associated with growing up. So, they really came to me with a bulletproof, idea, business plan. And, we sat down, and like I said, I let it be known, I have other businesses that I'm associated with, but what you guys are doing is needed for the community. Anything that someone brings to my attention that is empowering or has the opportunity to empower our people, I don't care if it's just an hour call that I get on to assist them, then I'm going to do that, right? I don't always have to, start all these businesses and do things to fulfill something in myself. And I feel like a lot of people, can throw the entrepreneurial name around or title because it's fulfilling something that they're looking for, right? It's fulfilling that success that maybe they feel like they're not getting at their corporate job,
right,
or they're not getting at home. So and those are things, that we have to deal with, and that goes and that can bring you to counseling and different things of mental health, that will allow you, like I said, that safe space. And I feel like mentally, when our people can get to a place of clarity internally and, in their head, I think that we all will be able to do, kind of great things. So.
No, for sure. And I think it takes that, man. It takes, leaders like yourself, men like yourself to be in the community and doing the work, because like you said, you look like them, you know what I mean? And that's something I realize is like, we just don't have a lot of us out here. And then obviously, because of other circumstances, a lot of men have been taken out of communities and families, specifically Black and brown men.
Exactly.
So you got all these young kids now being raised in communities by a bunch of moms and the system and the education system, but everything designed in this country was for the detriment of Black men. You know what I mean? And so, us being able to navigate that and make it through college and then start your own thing, we kind of have a different cheat code. You know what I mean? Where we could kind of move through this system, I feel like a little bit different using our minds. But it is up to us to go back and create these, whether it's a business, whether advising on a business, whether starting a nonprofit or being a part of a nonprofit. Because, one, we have the energy right now. And I think we have the mind, and we can relate to the kids. What I see a lot of times is you see a lot of older men trying to come back.
Exactly.
And it's like, you can't even compare because one, the older generation don't know nothing about social media. And this kid over here want to be TikTok famous, but it's like, how can you connect with these kids? And so I think we're in a time right now where we're seeing a lot of that disconnect with the age gap. But no, I love everything you're doing. I should have worn my hoodie. I don't know where my hoodie at, but I got the one hoodie.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that love. I gotta send you some more gear. You got some stuff coming up.
You know, I rep it, man. Like I'm like you, man. If I see somebody doing something, empowering the culture, you know, I feel like it's my obligation, my duty, you know what I mean, to support in any way that I can. And I think, you know, as a community, if we learn that, you know what I mean, like little support, you know what I mean, goes a long way. You know what I mean? A like, a share, you know, if you got the money, cop a t-shirt, because particularly in our community, I see this. It's like, yeah, you're an entrepreneur and you're actually doing work, but then it's hard for you to get other people to really to champion you. Exactly. The whole time, you know, we will go out and buy everybody else's gear. So we'll retweet, repost everybody else. But you got a best friend, you got a homie that's literally ground floor, you know, pulling himself up by the bootstraps to make this thing work. And, you know, everybody's like, oh, what you gonna pay me? And it's like,
exactly.
That's not how anything gets built, you know?
No, because yeah, and you made a really good point about like kind of that whole building aspect. You know, it was a point where we were obviously dealing with certain things as a community, but the community aspect was solid, right? If you walk down the street, you know, I knew everybody on my block. Everybody on my block knew either my mother or somebody. So if I even thought about getting out of line, it stopped right there, right? And then when you walk to whatever store or whatever you went to, like we were talking about before, you saw someone that looked like you. You know, if you wanted to, it didn't even matter about something small at Foot Locker, but it was like when you walked and got some shoes, the person that was helping you out looked like you, you know? So it's kind of like that aspect of it, you know, we do, you know, we have a opportunity to get to that point. But then I see a lot of like, oh, you know, they say support Black businesses, and then when you do, you know, you have a bad, you know, situation. But I was just like, okay, if you had a bad experience with that Black business, then find another Black business that does the same thing.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. Because
don't just start a whole thing out now.
Exactly. And that's and I just feel like we and when I say we, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I see a lot of internal or day-to-day struggles that don't allow people to look at that business, because it's like, hey man, I'm going through this, right? So it's kind of like getting it from the top down. You know, I really and I happily say this, I push all of our leaders, because I know that a lot of people are out there doing great things.
Right.
But it's just that we need to come together and have one voice, you know, and we have to be a little bit understanding that to get that one voice, a lot of people have to take a step back. And I don't think that right now we're doing that, right? It's like, I'm not going to have somebody else tell me what I need to do or where my money needs to go, because I'm going out every day and I'm working or I'm doing this. But if there was a voice where someone was like, you know, listen, this is what we're doing, you know, this is what we're doing, you know, like, if I'm getting shoes or I'm getting clothes, these are the list of clothes that's the only list I know about. If I'm going to eat, this is the only list that I know to eat. Now, I'm not saying to, you know, not support other races at all, because I think that that's something that, you know, is important, you know, because I want my son, I want my daughter to meet all races and creeds and be a part of society. You know, I'm not going to blind them to that. But I think that we still need to have some sense of understanding of where we're at as a people and how much work still needs to be done, and that we can do, you know, just taking it day by day.
Right. Yeah, I think we got to hold people accountable. You know what I mean? At the end of the
Exactly.
day, you know, we have the internet, we have these phones, we see what's going on. And so, you know, as a race of people, we can hold other races accountable because
Exactly.
every race uses our race in their culture to drive sales for everything. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? So you see a lot of these apps and stuff blowing up. You know, Clubhouse is the latest one. We hopping on that joint, but we are not the developers of Clubhouse, and we're not going to get that $1 billion when they decide, you know, to sell it or IPO it. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? But we're bringing all of our talents, all of our conversations to all these platforms that in turn are free, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but they
And
have
all
no
we do is
life.
get data.
Yeah, all they doing is collecting data, but they have no life without, you know, the content creators. And
Exactly. Exactly.
content creators that are creating, and then you have the music, the hip hop music, which is a soundtrack to most of this stuff. And so, you know, and that's one of the reasons, like when I got out of the league, or when I stopped trying out for the league, I was just like, yo, like even that, you look at the NFL, the NFL is 65-70% black. You know, if those guys decided they wasn't gonna come out for a national anthem, that's all you got to do. You know what I mean? All you got to do is
Exactly.
take one little stand, and that'll change everything. Look at what Dave Chappelle just did with Netflix and what was it, HBO. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
He went
Yep.
straight to direct to consumers. Yo, if you support me, do not go watch this on this show. And they turned around, gave him his money back. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But our
Exactly.
voice is so powerful, man. And so,
And,
um,
yeah, and one thing I want to say to that is I've been talking to a lot of people about it, is Black content. I don't think we have enough Black content. You know,
not at all.
obviously you're doing great things with, this opportunity with the channel and podcast, but I really think that to have a quicker impact is to not just it be movies, where it gets our energy up and stuff like that. Because like I said, when Judas and the Black Messiah came out, I was downloading HBO Max. I downloaded that like as soon as I saw the trailer.
Right.
The movie wasn't even coming out for another 2-3 weeks.
And he was in
So
there.
it's just like I feel like a lot of what's moving the culture and society is kind of media and kind of the internet. And I think that we have an opportunity right now because our voice is as powerful as it's ever been in America, that if we had a platform where my son could go on there and watch, you know, a Black cartoon,
Right.
just
Oh,
give
that's
me
what.
reruns of Static Shock,
Right.
give me reruns of Fat. I don't care,
Right.
and
Something.
then something, and then seeing like, I when we purchased our home, that was the most I ever watched that I
HGTV.
watched HGTV. Like, it was like almost every day. But then I
Right.
started to realize, I was like, where is the African American content?
Right.
Obviously we drive past some nice homes and you see some of the people doing the work, but you don't see the people that are building the homes. You don't see the people that are showing the homes.
Right.
So me
Yeah.
myself, I make a conscious effort to uh to bring people in the forefront of business and bring my dollar to Black businesses, because I just feel like if I do it and I post about it, somebody else sees it, and then that person is just like, oh, I didn't even know there was a person in our area that, it's crazy things like that had an ice cream shop, but that I didn't know that ice cream shop was ran by
Right.
someone that was Black. I can bring my son there and he can see that the owner of an ice cream shop, which he loves ice cream,
Right.
looks like him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. I think it's content, and I think that if um, you know more leaders with the ability in the media space that can navigate and kind of try to put pockets together for us, I think that will be huge in the coming years, because I think the youth can really be impactful from that. You know, obviously, if they're doing TikTok, they're doing all these things. If those individuals, like I said, can do that, I think it'll be big. So
Definitely. I mean, it's huge. Like, even just seeing, like, being able to have the flexibility as an entrepreneur alone, but showing kids, man, that being an entrepreneur, we're doing it already. We're doing it every day, but we just don't realize how to take that product, how to take that service, package it, teach other people how to do it. You know, I feel like our culture has taught us to, like, hold all of our jewels in, right?
yeah.
You know, you don't let nothing out, you don't share anything. But with social media, with the internet, I feel like it's really more important now than ever that we share, you know, this information, because, you know, that's kind of why I wanted to start this, because somebody could watch this on YouTube and learn a lot from this. You know, everybody's not great in school, you know, but we sit here and try to get everybody to sit in a chair for, you know, hours on end. And it's like, that's not how that person learns. Maybe that person needs to be moving, using their hands, doing certain things. And so our culture is just so focused on, you got to do this, that. And then nobody's teaching that, hey, you can do this other thing. You know what I mean? If you can't focus in school, maybe we need to put you in something else that keeps your attention. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And really focusing on creating that. I had one of my conversations I had before you was with a family friend, and her topic was the decolonizing parenting.
Okay.
And she basically was saying, like, you know, most of us are raised how we, or we raise our kids how we were raised.
Yeah.
But then most of us are raising our kids based on trauma, based on, you know, what was passed down. And so in effect, that's damaging every generation, because then if a kid's not paying attention in school, instead of figuring out why he's not paying attention, you just discipline him. You know what I mean? Instead of giving him other options, you just discipline him, or you just putting it like you were able to reclassify. You know what I mean? You were able to take that step back, readjust. And I think we need to be doing that with our kids, instead of saying, oh, you know, he's in kindergarten, and then what did everybody do? Is he in first grade? Is he in second grade? And now we're just comparing. But how much damage do we do to kids when a kid fails a test or fails a grade and feels like he's not going to be anything? Then you get out into the real world and you're like, everything is a team effort.
Exactly.
Right? If you work for a corporation, you want a team.
Exactly.
And so we need to start really teaching that earlier on. And to the animated cartoon, we definitely need that, because my son be watching YouTube all day, and I'm just like, you know, it's no, you know, you look at the animated content, you look at whatever, and there's just not enough. And like, everybody can't be a rapper. You know what I mean? Everybody can't be an NBA star, NFL star. So I think we need to have these conversations to encourage kids to start looking in other avenues, because everybody want to be cool, right? I feel like, you know, obviously we put a big play on our athletes and their coolness or whatever. But, you know, we really have to start engaging these kids to start understanding that technology, science, you know, math, all these different things. First of all, you're going to make more money long term, most likely, because unless you're a lottery pick, you know, and even that might not pan out. But you have a longer longevity in some of these businesses that, you know, you got businesses and jobs that you're making 150K, you know, for however long you working. And so I think that's huge, man, to get out. And I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up, since I had you on here for a minute. Just give us one last thing, man, that you you know, you want to impart to the youth, impart to, you know, men like us, to the culture.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of live by like this quote. I say it all the time. It's basically, be the change that you want to see in the world. And it hasn't yet became ink on my body, but that's probably soon. But that's really something that I live by, man. I feel like we all have the opportunity to change things in our life that we might not like, things that we might like, right? And it's not going to be the way that you think it's going to be. I'm talking to, like I said, someone that is younger or someone that is my peer. It's just like the faults or failures in life only become real failures if those acts become habits, right? So if we as individuals or anybody that's watching this can catch something that they had an issue with and change it that little bit to make it better, I think, like I said, the world will be better and we will be better people, and just more love. If we just hold on to the people that's important to us, and really just keep that as our I want to say priorities. So like another thing that I live by is 4 priorities. And when I was playing basketball, it was God, family, school, basketball. And if I can give anybody that, work on that every day. When you wake up, what's your 4 priorities? That could change every day. That could change every week. That could change in the 2 years. But if you wake up every day and you know the 4 things that you get out of bed and you try your damnness to accomplish or basically make better, I don't know anybody that can't have a success story from that. So that'll be my end, man. Appreciate it.
And then before we wrap up, where can everybody find you? Social media handles, websites, all that.
Yeah, so on social, you can find me at Mr. Miller. The Mr. is 2 I's, because obviously somebody took that. And on LinkedIn, it's just Paul Miller. On Facebook, it's probably PJ Miller. Like I said, the companies that I currently own is Wash&Fold Printing. That's www.washandfoldprinting.com. Like I said, our tagline is bringing ideas to garments. So anything that you possibly have, if it's anything that we could print on or you want printed, we definitely help you. We have a full service, kind of full funnel approach. I do make some dope apparel, the 10th Clothing. So that's www.the10thclothing.com. And I could go on and on, but I definitely will want to plug my nonprofit, the Academy 365, and more to come with the sports agency, because we're really working on changing what you said, that 60% of African Americans, but when it comes to leaders and coaches and different people that make decisions, they don't look like us. So that's my effort. All of those businesses that I talked about are, my push to bring more ownership, wealth, and just happiness to the Black community, because I can't change, who I am. I can't change, the color of my skin. And I feel like that makes me unique, and people that look like me makes them unique. And, from sports to everything, we would never connect if, we didn't pick that ball up when we were little, right? Yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can email me, or like I said, DM me on Instagram. I'm readily accessible. So,
my man.
All right, man. I appreciate it, man. Thank you, Gerald.
Hey, man. Appreciate you, bro.
All right, man. Enjoy the rest of your night. Tell the family I said what's up, and I'll give you a little update. Hopefully, in a few weeks when baby girl gets here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll be praying for you, bro.
All right. Appreciate it, man. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Love, man. Peace.
Peace.